Lesson 16. The clauses. Let's observe analytical skills. Read the following sentences. Mrs. Pratibha Patil was the first Indian woman who held the president's office. What do you observe in the above sentence? Let's learn conceptual learning. In the above sentence, expression written in colored letters is a clause. Who is the subject and hold is the finite verb. A clause has only finite verb in it. A clause may or may not stand on its own. If it stands on its own, then it means that it is also a sentence. If it does not, then it means that it is part of a sentence made up of two or more clauses. If a clause makes complete sense in itself, it is called the main clause or the principal clause of the sentence. If it is dependent on another clause to complete its meaning, it is called the subordinate clause. Kinds of subordinate clause. There are two kinds of clause, main or the independent clause and subordinate or the dependent clause. Main or independent clause. A main clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a predicate. It expresses a complete sense and functions as a complete sentence on its own. Example: I trust him because he always keeps his words. In this sentence, the subject I is followed by the verb trust and later the subject he is followed by the verb keeps. Three characteristics or components of main clause are a subject, an action verb or predicate conveying a complete sense, subordinate or dependent clause. A subordinate clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a predicate. It cannot express a complete sense and thus cannot function as a complete sentence. It is usually marked by a binder. Conjunction. Subordinate clauses are dependent because of the presence of a binder, because, after, before, since, in order to, although, though, whenever, wherever, whether, while, even though, even if, etc. It is a clause and cannot be called a sentence because it is an incomplete sense. In other words, we do not know what happened. Example: when the moon rose. Here, when functions as a binder. Binders are added to the beginning of main clauses or sentences and transform them into subordinate clauses. Grammar connect. Coordinating conjunctions and, but, or, so are used to connect independent clauses. Types of subordinate clause. The types of a clause depends upon the function of that clause in a sentence. There are three types of subordinate clause. A. Noun clause. B. Adjective clause. C. Adverb clause. Noun clause. It contains a subject and a predicate of its own and does the work of a noun. These often start with how, that and other WH words. Example: I like what I want. Clause what I want. A noun clause can function either as the 1. Subject of a verb. Example: what Ritu says seems true. Subject of the verb seems. 2. Object of a verb. Example: I forgot what you had told me. Object of the verb forgot. 3. Object of a participle. Example: learning that I was ill he came to visit me. Object of a participle learning. 4. Object of an infinitive. Example, he came to tell me that the school was closed. Object of an infinitive to tell. 5. Object of a preposition. Example, they somehow live on what they earn. Object of a preposition on. Adjective clause. It does the work of an adjective in a sentence. Example, she is wearing a gold necklace. Adjective clause. An adjective clause can be used for 1. Modifying the subject. Example, the gift which Rani brought was the best. The adjective clause which Rani brought modifies the noun the gift which is the subject of the clause the gift the best. 2. Modifying a noun in the predicate. Example, she is the girl who won the topper's trophy. The adjective clause who won the topper's trophy modifies the noun the girl which is part of the predicate in the sentence. 3. Modifying the direct object. Example, the dog fetched the ball that his master threw. The adjective clause that his master threw describes the noun the ball which is the direct object of the verb fetched. 4. Modifying the indirect object. Example, we sent flowers to Arup who was unwell. The adjective clause who was unwell in this sentence describes the noun Arup which is the indirect object of the verb sent. 5. Modifying the object of a preposition. Example, we walked down the road which is famous for its cafes. The adjective clause which is famous for its cafes describes the noun the road which is the object of the preposition down. Adverb clause. It does the work of an adverb modifying or adding meaning to a verb. Example, when the sun rises, birds leave their nests. When the sun rises adverb clause doing the work of an adverb. Types of adverb clauses. Adverb clause of time, till, whenever, when, before, after, until, anytime, while, since just as often as soon as, now that, as long as, no sooner than. Example, until I return no one will leave this meeting room. Adverb clause of place, as near as, wherever, as, anywhere, as far as, where. Example, he promised to go wherever I went. Adverb clause of reason, such as, that, since, because, for. Example, he was angry because we disobeyed her. Adverb clause of degree or comparison. It indicates the degree, that is, the relative extent of the condition described in the independent clause. It answers the questions how much, how many, or how little few. Example, it is colder today than it was yesterday.